¿Qué hay, mi chulos? Welcome to La Cabana Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Cabanas, and today we'll be talking about ICE raids and detention camps in the U.S. I'm joined by my guest, Raven Villarreal, who is part of the Illinois Coalition of Immigrant Refugee Rights. What's up, Raven?
Yeah, what's good? Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. You want to tell us a little bit more about the ICIRR?
Yeah, so, the acronym, ICIRR.
Uh-huh.
So I joined it through a teacher who helped me basically like get into the scene of just like activism. So like one of the main things, which is like why I got interested, is that they protest at the border every Thanksgiving. And they just drive down and like camp out for like days.
Have you ever done that?
I unfortunately have not yet. I've just literally missed the deadline like every time. But it's a really, really cool program, and like just this past summer we've been doing like protests and try to help people like connect to their families, or like what do I do now type of thing. Like basically just anything to help.
And you guys have like meetings where you like talk about this stuff, right?
Yeah, we actually you could look us up online.
Yeah.
ICIRR.org. You can join by just learning through like sessions. They're usually like 2 full days, and they just basically explain like everything that we do and like how we help people and like how to get trained on helping people properly. Like they're not just gonna throw you in there and be like, okay, talk to this person. Like you're gonna know what you're doing. But yeah, like anyone can join. Like my teacher was like in her 40s and I was 18 when I joined. Like you just want to help.
Yeah. And then, well, obviously this is for Illinois. Do you know if there's any such groups for like other states, like, or if there's any bigger groups that kind of go throughout the country?
Yeah, I don't know of any specifics, but I do know that we've worked with people in different states. Like I know we did one in Ohio, and I know California does a lot.
I bet, yeah.
But it's kind of like everywhere, just like small nonprofit organizations just doing their best to help. But a big reason why like this is a big one is because it's so prominent in like the Illinois area and like Chicago that like we need it.
Yeah, and actually this past summer you organized a whole thing with our friend group.
Yeah, I had a bunch of homies come over and we made signs.
We painted signs.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was fun just the night before, and then woke up really tired the next day but ready to protest.
Yeah, we all went out. It was really hot that day.
It was. I think it was randomly like 90 degrees out, but you know, we have a voice that we can use and they don't. So
yeah, and there was a lot of people there.
Yeah.
You say the majority of those people are they part of the group, or they just kind of hear from other people?
I know that protests in specific. A lot of that was our organization and like word of mouth, but there was so much going on in the city that summer, and just throughout that like time frame that like people heard about just protesting ICE and just came through.
Yeah.
Like I think our whole friend group, I hit everyone up and they were all like, yeah, I'll be there. Like,
yeah, and even people who couldn't be there, like you had your one friend that just showed up to help make signs.
Yeah.
And then just left.
Yeah, and like honestly, the signs that you make do impact the people there. Like mine had deaths by detention. And that had all the people who had gotten killed in detention centers. And when we were there was an elderly woman, and she had kind of like a cage that she made for herself, and she was in it, and it just symbolized all the kids in cages and people in detentions, and she just read my sign and like cried.
Yeah.
And we was just like, thank you, and we kind of cried together.
I remember that.
Yeah.
You can really feel like it struck something.
Yeah, it was really moving.
Did she say anything about it, or just that's what it was?
Like a lot of the times it's like we're all there because we care so much.
Yeah.
So you don't need to do like the, oh, they suck. Like we're all like, yeah, we know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really fun protest. They do a lot of them, but it's really hard to get people out when the weather's not nice.
Yeah.
Like I know even myself, if it's 20 degrees and snowing, I'm not going to want to get up at 9 a.m. to go to downtown. But one thing I really liked about this certain protest, we went all throughout the city, and we at one point saw all the people who were detained by ICE. I don't know if you remember that. They were like.
Was that? I thought that was just a regular prison. Was that a detention center?
That was a detention center. That's why everyone was really excited walking past it.
I did not realize that.
Yeah. like they could see us and like we were just holding up our signs like you're not alone, like we're all here, we're all
That's kind of crazy because for those of you not from Chicago, this protest was like in downtown and there was so much people, we walked like 6 city blocks or something.
Yeah, it was a very long time.
It was kind of a walk.
I think one of the longest protests I've been in Chicago because normally it gets cut off or like people just stop marching or like we're not allowed to.
But it was just like so much people, you did the lap, everything was blocked off of course because it's organized. But in the middle of the protest we crossed the building, which I guess was the detention center, which is this really tall building, triangular, and like it looks like a prison when you walk by. It's like little slits, windows. It's almost kind of weird just seeing a building like that in the middle of downtown. Yeah,
and it's like people are walking around in business suits, and it's like, are you going to that building to like it's just such a. I think it's so big. But yeah, I think that was like my favorite part of the protest. It's really nice. But yeah, they do a bunch of that kind of stuff. Help people find their families, which is very important because a lot of people are missing from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like every issue, they kind of go on.
So Raven, just recently, I've read on the New York Times that they're announcing that ICE will increase their arrests 35% in sanctuary cities in response to sanctuary cities not wanting to cooperate with ICE. So ICE is not happy about it, right? Because they're talking about, we're trying to take away these criminals. You're not letting us make the cities and the neighborhoods even safer.
Yeah, I mean, to me, what that sounds like is that they weren't getting their way, so they're bringing people in who are more official and who will get the job done, which unfortunately probably means people who are not, like, humane. They're upset that people aren't, that the arrest rates aren't as high as they would like because people actually know their rights and they know, like, if I'm on a train and you just ask me for my papers, that I have a right not to speak to you. Just like little things like that where it's like people are getting educated because it is a sanctuary city.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also read that article. They're bringing like handfuls in.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes much sense. I think it's just evil and another way for them to target people.
Well, what kind of annoys me is this rhetoric of we're only capturing criminals, right?
Oh yeah, I know. I actually, just today I went on like the Illinois website for people who got taken in by ICE, and the only like articles were people who like got drug possessions or like tax fraud or like random, not like the kids that are getting taken or like the families that are getting torn apart, just like this random coked out dude, that's who we're taking. Like that's not all that they're doing.
And I was reading that they say this, but at the same time when they catch, they'll do like roundup, they'll round up like the whole family, right? And then the other thing is that they have quotas, meaning like...
Yeah, you have to reach a certain amount of arrests in order to like keep your position.
Because that, if you have a quota of like capturing like 200 people, but there's only 11 or less criminals, are you really only trying to capture criminals?
Yeah, well that's why a lot of kids got taken because they needed their quota up, and what's easier than like 2 parents and like 6 kids?
Yeah, and then it's just annoying because it's only really used for immigrants. Like there's criminals in every group of people everywhere in the world. There's always good and bad people everywhere, but this just rhetoric of always kind of referring to immigrants like they're bringing in, the famous Trump line, they're bringing in their drugs, bad people and whatever. But a lot of people who come, they're just here to work and provide for their families.
Oh yeah.
And also just escaping violence in their home countries. And yeah, I just don't think it's fair. It's just...
Oh yeah, just to generalize them into this group of just villains when they're not. I mean, there's that's why they do the days where they're like, immigrants take off, and they're like, see how you function without us, and like, people are like, I don't know how to do this job, or like, this didn't get done, and it's like, yeah, because the dude that you're paying minimum wage is doing that job every day, even though it's tedious, even though it's not what he wants to do, it's what he has to do to survive. And
then it's like, oh, they're taking the jobs, and
it's like what jobs? Like, do you know how hard it is to be like a person of color to build up in like any industry, it's like just having a last name that's not a white last name, a Caucasian last name. It's so hard to get a job. Like, it's just that's just like
yeah, and they're taking up like immigrants take up jobs that people here wouldn't want to do, like picking fruit on a
super hot summer day. Yeah, mowing the lawn when like you don't want to, like just like little things that they don't realize, like.
And the U.S. has relied on Mexican labor to do those kind of jobs for literally forever. My mom's dad was a bracero like in the 1930s. So he like was a contracted labor to help on these food places pick up fruit and whatever. And it's like it's been here forever.
Yeah, I mean that's like that sucks. That's like what their life is just set to be.
And then I read that an argument is that when ICE does these raids, you're scaring a lot of these undocumented people. And they're saying that actually it's more dangerous because now you have a segment of people in cities who are afraid to talk to police, afraid to report crimes, and like help with if there's an investigation with something that's actually like pretty serious, that they're too scared to even talk because they're afraid of getting deported.
Right. Yeah, that is also an issue. Like, if you're not a citizen here and you see something, or like let's say something is done to you, like you can't go to the cops because that's like one of the first things that they ask.
Yeah.
I think I watched like a documentary about this brother and sister who came to America through the tunnels, and the girl got bit by a lot of like mice while she was in the tunnels, and because of that she got like some very simple disease that you would get, but because she couldn't go to a doctor, she died from it.
Yeah.
And like, if all she needed was a checkup, that's it. But because she wasn't a citizen, she couldn't get it. And even when she's in the hospital, they were like, we can't give her this certain medicine because she's technically not a citizen. She ended up dying. And it's like that happens all the time in like different scenarios, different like girls, boys, everything.
Yeah. And then this is also kind of a response of, in the summer 2019, there was a plan. They planned on targeting more than 2,000 families in the country, but they only really ended up getting like 35 of them. So I guess the main reason on the article, they said that apparently because of Trump's tweets, he would announce that when these raids were happening in what city. Yeah. So a lot of people were prepared. But what I remember mostly about it is that when I was on my feed on social media here in Chicago, I would always see people saying, "Oh, ICE is here on this and this street, watch out." And it's just like a lot of people just warning everybody.
Yeah, because it's like all of us are connected, and the people who are for all of these ICE raids, and like if they go up to like a random group of people and say like, "Oh, I support ICE," I can promise you there's going to be like at least 2 people in that group being like, incorrect. So like, yeah, people are saying like, "Yo, they're getting targeted here," because a lot of those people is like, that's my people. That's like my cousin, that's my brother, that's this, that's that. And it's like, have some humility. Yeah.
I mean, it was really cool to see that people just like warning each other.
I agree. I think that was really interesting. It also made me really sad with how common it was. Yeah. And the certain areas that they would target, that it was like you know what they're doing.
Yeah. And, well, I said there's a lot of neighborhoods where you can more likely have undocumented people. And one of the things that when they were doing these raids is that they wouldn't want to come out, right? Yeah. Which ended up hurting local businesses around the city, because a lot of these undocumented people who would go out and get their groceries or whatever wouldn't want to be going out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like people are having to put a pause on their life and everything that they do, whether it's day to day or just like a special event, because they're constantly being just targeted just for being here. Yeah.
And then I know you mentioned a couple times about knowing your rights.
Yeah.
So what I read is that ICE can't just like knock down your door. So they could be at your door, you could be at home, simply just not refuse to open the door to them, you should be
Yeah.
fine. What else would you advise an undocumented person? Because they might step up rates
Yeah.
soon.
I mean, to be honest, there's nothing like legally new
Mm-hmm.
that could be helpful that's not
Yeah.
already out there for people, but we always tell people like have an escape no matter where you're at, have like a safe house type of thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's literally like you're just trying to survive. Like don't answer the door. Do not open the door. And if they do open the door, have everything ready.
Mm-hmm.
One piece of advice though is like if you are undocumented and they do come in, little fight as possible, because the second you put up a fight is the second they get aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you hear all these stories of like people just getting beat, and I'm not saying that they deserved it or that they gave attitude or something like that, but like
Yeah.
there's just like to provoke them in any way, they have no heart.
Mm-hmm.
Like they'll do anything. Like you could talk back and they'll be like, oh, acted out of line, you know,
Yeah.
beat the shit out of you.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's kind of what you can see on enforcement around the country in general.
yeah, I mean
It's
just
like-
police in general.
You just kind of do a little something, kind of try to put up a little bit of a fight, maybe state your rights, and I guess it just annoys the cop a little bit.
Yeah, I mean like
Mm-hmm.
they know the law and
Mhm.
they know that they're breaking it. If they are, a lot of them don't care.
Yeah.
A lot of them
A lot
know
of-
that they have the power to just
Mm-hmm.
go above whatever.
A lot of them get bailed out by their colleagues.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh-huh.
16 shots. He was
Mm-hmm.
back on the streets. Like how much later? Like
Yeah, and you hear that a lot in
Yeah.
different cases.
yeah, like it's
Mhm.
disgusting.
So now moving on to detention camps, where this is where people get taken to. How worrying is it that these camps are still here and people have stopped talking about it? Because essentially over the summer, on my feed I would see it all the time,
Mhm.
talk about families getting separated, unsanitary conditions, whatever. And then it seemed like they passed some kind of law and then everyone was content and it just kind of stopped, people stopped talking about it. But on my feed, every now and then I'll keep seeing that it's still here and it's like basically how it was before.
Yeah. Honestly, I checked into that. I don't think any certain laws were passed that people were like, okay, yeah, this is cool what ICE is doing. Like, we don't need to like harbor on them too much. It was more so like just repetitive news, and like they claimed that they were changing the facilities and that things were different. But if you talk to the people there, it was nothing of that.
Yeah.
I think it's so scary that people, you know, aren't thinking as much into this as they should be. Even the people that do, like, I understand topics are hard to continuously talk about, especially one like this, but there's so many different just issues with it that, like, you can't stop talking about it.
You can't just ignore it.
Yeah, like, last year the amount of kids missing was 1,475, and that's children. That's like, you know, like.
How do you lose that many kids?
Yeah, and it's sad because a lot of these kids are just getting sold into the sex trafficking rings and human trafficking rings, and like nobody is talking about that. Human trafficking barely gets talked about, and that's all these immigrants who go missing. They're either getting murdered or sold. Like there's, rarely are they escaping. Rarely are they getting reunited with their families, and like in the centers themselves, they're treated awfully, like disgusting. Like they're not even human. Like. Not even an animal would get treated like that. Like, it's terrible.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of things reported from detention centers. Well, there's just like a whole list.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
like, people have to drink toilet water. Women aren't given feminine products. There are a lot of cases of rape and sexual assault with boys and girls.
From prison guards and even within.
Yeah.
There's I remember. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, yeah, right? She apparently went into one of these centers, and some woman that was in the detention center gave her like a thing of shampoo. It was like, well, I didn't have like a thing to compare it to, but it looked like it was like roughly this big.
Like travel size?
And you get one of those just to wash your whole body. And she was just reporting how a lot of women's like their hair was falling off. It was just like the super cheap shampoo that they
Yeah, and then I mean like they're not getting well nourished, so that means that their fingers, you know, are really fragile. Their nail beds are like not there, which also means that to protect themselves against anything, they're so weak.
Yeah.
Like
they get malnutrition, so then they have low, not as good immune systems.
Yeah, and like even just like being in there with such close quarters and so many people, and like that also has a lot to on their psyche, you know, like mentally these people being in these, I forget what somebody called them, but they said something like it wasn't even like a prison, like it's worse than a prison.
It's like what they use concentration camp maybe.
Yeah, maybe it was like similar to like that, but it's like let's say there's this journalist who was just in there for 15 months, and he was taken into a detention camp because he was talking too much, basically, about ICE. When he gets out of there, like, if he can't afford, you know, a therapist or anything to help him deal with, like, everything he saw and everything he went through, like, he's just screwed. Like, and they did that to so many people, and they're continuously doing that.
Yeah. And there's, ever since Trump became president, they've helped a lot of people going into the detention centers and making more detention centers.
Yeah, I mean, and like, people do say like, oh, this is all Trump, but like Obama had ICE raids as well. Like Trump is just doing it to the extreme as usual.
Trump just basically tweets about it.
Yeah, like a 15-year-old boy would.
Yeah.
But
that's a good point though. Obama definitely did have. He deported a lot of people, and detention camps still existed under him.
Yeah, they did.
But
that school that they had, Obama.
Oh yeah. So there was a school, like basically like a made up college that they were sending out to non-citizens, saying like, you got a scholarship here, come join us, like, and these people were like, oh my gosh, this is like the best thing ever, and it was a nice raid, and that was something Obama did.
Just under Obama?
They were offering these immigrant students student visas and a
Yeah.
scholarship. So they get there, and ICE comes, and they ask for their papers, and their papers are fake without their knowledge.
Yeah.
So they basically gave these people the option to either be detained or to leave. So 80% of the students
Left.
had to leave the country, and then the other 20% were detained by ICE.
Yeah. And that's like an awful thing
And
for them to do.
that
And
college
that
got
was,
started under Obama.
yeah, that was under the Obama administration.
See, I've heard of that, but I didn't realize it was under Obama.
Yeah, and Trump has continued it, but he started it.
Yeah.
So, like, this isn't something new, this is just something that's getting out of hand.
Yeah, and then I had like the numbers. So basically, we have the most immigrant prison centers in the world. I mean, that's not too surprising to me, because we have the most prisons, period,
Yeah.
in the world by far. But we have over 200 immigrant prison centers here in the United States. And they're not even just at the border. Like we mentioned, there's one in downtown Chicago, literally. And there's also, they say, at a time, there's over 50,000 detainees at a time, which is also the most in the world. That part, when I kind of read it, I was like, at a time, I guess they are supposed to be like moving people in and out. You know, some people go to cases, but there's also a lot of reports of a lot of people being there for
overcrowding.
2 months or too much months or even years. And these detention centers have been around since like, a lot of them since like all decade.
Yeah.
For a lot of years.
Yeah, I mean, like, they just started in, like, America in, like, you said, like, what, the 70s?
In the 70s, I think it was, like,
So
the first ones.
Yeah, if there's only one to open up then, there's been, like, what?
Yeah.
Like 30, 40 years later? Hell yeah, it's, like, tripled in size.
I think people don't really realize that, because when you've only really started hearing about it
Yeah,
now
you think
because
it's just
gotten
now
so
a
bad.
thing, but it's not. Like, if, as an immigrant, like, that's something, like, to always be scared of is, like, ICE coming.
Yeah.
Like, that's always been a thing. You know what I mean? But I feel like now it's just like a leader had a voice to say all of these things that's happening.
Yeah.
And like, although Obama was doing it, he never was outright like, we need to like get all these villains and all these criminals, like how Trump is making it seem like it's such a thing.
It's kind of like a rallying cry that Trump's made.
Yeah, and that's why it's getting so bad.
Yeah, definitely. And then, I mean, like I said earlier, we can just sit through and talk about all the different issues. I guess I'll just kind of mention them real quick. Medical issues, people not providing medical assistance. I've seen that they always say there's like emergency care, whatever.
There's not.
Yeah, but there's still the reports of people getting sick,
Mm-hmm.
and then some people even dying because they were so sick and they didn't get any kind of help,
Yeah.
right? And then there's also, they don't really provide accommodations for people with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
I read a report that they did give this one guy a wheelchair, but then they took it away after like a couple weeks. And then after that, the guards kind of have to give him food every day because, he needs a wheelchair to get places.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of sanitation problems, as we mentioned before. Being so much people and not providing sufficient cleaning products, just having a little thing of shampoo. And also, a lot of these people work, like they make them work. And I've seen that it might be different in different places, but the one place that I saw in this report was they got $1 a day, and they had to choose, with $1 a day, they had to choose whether to get something to clean or something to eat. And most people are going to choose like they mentioned like a ramen packet that they can eat over something like shampoo or toothpaste or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, it's crazy.
It's just like, it's ridiculous that people are getting treated this way and that people know about it and just nothing is being done. Like, it's, those conditions is kind of like a modern day slavery where like these people are literally being held just because they're not up to par with what America thinks you should be.
Yeah.
And they're being forced to work for no money. Like that's why it's so accepted in our society and what's going down, because it's just another form of what we've already done.
And these people are only coming here and asking for asylum. Most of them are asking for asylum in our country because of the violence back home, and then they come here and they're treated basically like.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked
like they killed a bunch of people.
Yeah, I've talked to a guy who came because his like mom was dead, his dad was dead, all of his siblings, like grandparents, like he was completely by himself.
Yeah.
This kid was like kind of youngish, like 18, 19, but like if you think of yourself when you're 18, 19 years old and all of your family is gone, your town is just completely screwed, like this is the place that you come to and then you're in a freaking detention center, like.
Yeah. And a lot of people that I know come from Mexico or Central America, I talk to them and I'll be like, I'm fortunate enough to be able to go back to Mexico all the time because it's safe where I live. But a lot of people that I've talked to here have not been into Mexico in years, or have never been to Mexico because they say the violence is so bad that we just can't return.
Yeah, I've had family members say that as well. Like they haven't been going on trips the past few years, or like just haven't been there, and it's like everything is just gone to like shambles.
So I guess we'll close this off with how can someone get involved? Someone
get involved. Just like one, educate yourself. Even I had to like read up before I did this, and this is like something I want to do for like my entire life, is like to protest these kind of actions, and like you just always need to keep up with what's happening. If someone comes to you for help, obviously give it to them. Yeah. Like honestly, just do your research, figure out organizations near you. The ICIRR is also a good one.
If you're in Illinois.
I said that real slow for you.
I think it's important to also, like, if you see it online, like, to share it. Right?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that any of this is too sensitive for people not to be introduced to, and if it is, then you should probably figure your shit out. But
I think a lot of people kind of don't realize it's maybe still here, or they just kind of forgot about it.
Yeah, and it's like even if like you just talk about it with someone for 10 minutes, like that person knows now, and maybe that person will say something. Maybe that person will care and actually do something. Like we have a power in numbers. Yeah. And all these people's voices are being taken away, and if yours isn't, you should use it.
And there's definitely a lot of nonprofits that help.
Oh yeah.
There's like people who provide lawyers and
Mhm.
yeah. And
There's
stuff like
even
that.
there's another organization that deals with like police reform,
Mhm.
and a lot of that deals with people in prison and detentions, and you write to them. And it's just something as simple as like having a human contact that doesn't think of them as like scum of the earth,
Yeah.
and like even something like that,
Mhm.
if you could muster it. And a lot of these things to help, I understand, can be very hard on people and
Mhm.
very draining. So like, even if you do care about the subject a lot and you really, really like want to get into it, but you find yourself drained from it, imagine how drained all these people in here are.
Yeah.
you
Actually
know?
being in the situation.
Yeah, and it's
Mhm.
like this is so hard on you to like discuss it and to try to be a part of the solution, but like, have to.
Mhm. Yeah.
And like, especially the people whose families are involved and like friends are involved, and it's like they're doing it for them,
Mhm.
and like, if you can, you should.
Yeah. One website that I did find online is called Freedom for Immigrants. So if you go there, they have like a little panel that says resources,
Mhm.
and they have different links. They have like they try to if you have someone if you know somebody who's in the detention center, they have I guess a database to help you try to find them.
Mhm.
You can also fill out like a missing persons report or something. Even if they might not be in the system, you can
Mhm.
put in a report and see how they could help.
Yeah.
They also have a different link for lawyers and different stuff. If you just look on their website, I bet there's other ones, but that's just the one that I found when I was researching this topic.
Yeah. I guess like one main thing is if you are trying to help, getting police help or police involved in any way is never the solution.
Mhm.
Like, I saw this one thing where this girl, it was like in our group chat, and she was like talking about like how she wanted to go to an ICE raid with the police officer, but like show him how like you shouldn't be raiding, and like that's not the solution to this. It's not like,
Mhm.
oh, we're gonna win them over with like daisies, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's not what this fight is
Mhm.
about.
Yep.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much, Raven.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. It's a good talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much.